Contrary to what many city tourism websites will tell you, the best Western is a thrilling story about cowboys, and not a type of hotel. As such, if you're looking for the best Western video games, then the rodeo you want is right here in this video, and not in a tired-looking lobby. Unlike the battlefields of the modern day and the far future, games featuring Stetson-wearing gunslingers are few and far between. As such, to find the best ones, you'll have to dig deep into the back catalogue of gaming history. And while they may sometimes be a bit old school, our top picks of the best Western games are never less than a rootin' tootin' good time. If you love our choices, don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video with your friends when you're down at the saloon. Now time to give this revolver a spin.
The Call of Juarez series boasts some of the finest Western games around, including the fantastic Bound in Blood. But our favourite is actually Call of Juarez Gunslinger, a sly dog that still looks great thanks to its wonderful cel-shaded art style. Gunslinger boasts a few gameplay innovations that makes it stand out from other shooters. A cinematic cheat death mechanic slows down time and zooms in on the bullet that's about to kill you, for instance. Dodge it like Neo and you'll get your health back. Then there's the one-on-one showdown duels that act almost like puzzles, requiring you to study your opponent as you slowly reach for your own six-shooter. It's the narration mechanic, however, that's the real standout. Playing as a gunslinger whose older self is telling the story years later, the voiceover often gets things wrong, or even straight up lies, with the levels themselves morphing around the tale being told.
Back in 2005, developers Neversoft took time off from the Tony Hawk series to release Gun. It's a Wild West shooter with an excellent story, a great soundtrack, and some impressive acting talent, including Lance Henriksen, Ron Perlman, and Thomas Jane as protagonist Colton White. The already entertaining shooting is enhanced by the quick-draw slow-motion mechanic, which is very satisfying to use. While it is a little short, Gun still holds up as a compelling story-driven shooter, shrugging off its age with a script penned by an actual movie scriptwriter. Who says you need a PS4 for a dramatic tale of betrayal, horses, and very fine hats?
All games that end with the sound O's have to belong to the same genre. So it is that Desperados is essentially a Wild West take on the classic strategy game Commandos. Actually, though, it might be the better game. That's mostly down to the cast, from the gambling Kate O'Hara to the grumbling Doc McCoy. And don't forget the monkey-wielding Mia Young. Nope, that's not a monkey wrench. She keeps a primate on her person at all times, as you do. True to their genre, the levels are tough as nails. It's best to think of Desperados as a puzzle game, in which agonising over the best path to victory will have you squinting like Clint Eastwood.
LucasArts were one of the relatively few 90s developers to put plot front and centre in their games, and Outlaws sports a classic Western revenge story. You play as retired US Marshal James Anderson, who returns home to find that a gang of vicious outlaws has kidnapped his daughter and murdered his wife. You then have to track them down over 9 and a bit excellent levels of pure old-school FPS action. It looks a little basic by today's standards, sure, but if you ever found joy in Doom or Star Wars Dark Forces, as you should, you'll find more of that here. Special mention has to go to the voice acting, which stars Q from Star Trek as Dr. Death. No, this isn't a Marvel Comics crossover, but you'd better believe he's a true villain, just like the worst of them.
Hard West is a turn-based cowboy game that makes shootouts every bit as tense as they ought to be. The game begins as a mysterious stranger offers you a chance to avenge your murdered loved ones. That stranger may or may not be Death himself. No, not you, Dr. Death. But hey, we wouldn't judge even if they were the Grim Reaper. Practically everyone in Hard West has some kind of supernatural element going on. If they're not clairvoyants, they're resurrectionists. You know, cowboy stuff. Make no mistake, this is a proper Western. One in which you can spot hidden enemies by their shadows, just like they do in the classic movies. John Wayne would be proud, once he got over the concept of a video game.
While most of the Oddworld series focuses on a friendly little Mudokon named Abe and his adventures in platforming, Stranger's Wrath is an alien western. And you know what? It's wonderful. Stranger is a bounty hunter who tracks outlaws to pay for a mysterious life-saving operation. The game itself is a strange hybrid of FPS and third person, but the shooter portions stand out thanks to Stranger's crossbow, which fires live animals. It's far less horrific than it sounds, more Muppets than mass murder. Setting up traps made of fuzzy balls ready to chew your enemies to bits never gets old.
Western games can have a habit of taking things too seriously, but there's room for some laughter too. Enter West of Loathing, a straight-up Wild West comedy where all the characters are stick figures. It's an RPG with turn-based Final Fantasy-style combat, but that's not what West of Loathing is about. Instead, the focus is on exploring this bizarre world and trying to do everything in it, from riding the ghost horses to flushing the toilets. The deliberately crummy graphics just make it more endearing. Plus, it's the only game on this list to have a Dave yard, a graveyard for people named Dave.
Yes, I bet you never thought of Fallout New Vegas as a Wild West game, did you? But think about it. It puts you in the role of a mysterious stranger looking to find their purpose in the deserts of the Mojave Wasteland. Ignore the rodents, robots, and Romans, and it's about as Western as you can get. The trusty VATS aiming mechanic remains as fun as ever, and the mix of shooter and RPG works perfectly. Oh, and be sure to get the Wild Wasteland perk so you can find a load of wacky secrets, like aliens or the remains of Indiana Jones in a fridge. Just remember to grab his hat before the door shuts.
Ideally, this is the part where I'd walk off into the horizon, having mediated between civilization and the wilderness as any good Western hero should. The trouble is, the cable on this mic only stretches so far, so I better finish up first. If you liked our choices, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more recommendations from PCGamesN. And if you didn't like them, well, I suppose you can get Red Dead Redemption on PC these days by using that PlayStation Now service. But that's cheating, and no true gunslinger abides a cheat. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's a sunset I need to stride towards. I guess that's where all the squinting comes in.